Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something phenomenal to take a look at, something I have been looking forward to for quite some time, as we've got a brand new SP Art Projects model, and this is actually something that I had taken a look at recently in a news video, kind of had shown you guys what was being released. This is actually, I believe, the second paint variant of this set, but we have the Dakota Raptor taking on the Ankylosaurus in one of the absolute coolest dioramas I've ever seen. Again, a brand new SP Art Projects model is never a bad thing because they have produced some of the best models that I have in my collection, some of the best models I've ever seen, and this absolutely follows right in that same trend. This might actually be my brand new favorite model from them. It is insane to look at. Like, first of all, one of the things I love the most is how, obviously, we've got an Ankylosaurus protecting itself, and we can see that the, Dakota Raptor is in mid-air. Like, it's actually not touching the ground at all as it takes a club tail here to the side of its body. And that's not something I've really seen before, would be something where the actual raptor is completely up in the air like that. And obviously it's because it's attached to the club tail itself, but it creates a really cool visual that you could see here as far as the, Dakota Raptor actually being up off of the ground. But honestly, everything about this is incredible, and I am super, super hyped to get a closer look at it with you guys and show this off to you. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight to it. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Dakota Raptor, you can see obviously the mouth of the Dakota Raptor is sculpted in an open position as it's coming in, attempting to take down our Ankylosaurus. It's either that or maybe it's letting out a vocalization as it's being clubbed with that tail, which I'm sure would not feel very good. But either way, we've got the mouth sculpted in an open position, and you can see everything as far as that goes looks great. You can see the skin stretching here on the side of the mouth as the mouth opens. You can also see again that the fine detail here of the face, the skin texture and everything looks really good, and we have some perfect doses of realism here on the face as we've highlighted the nostrils with a darker coloration, given it a little bit of a gloss coat, and the eyes look super lifelike. Look at those eyes. They look really, really realistic, really alive overall. Again, nice, perfect gloss coat there as well. And you can see, again, quite a bit of variation of color here in the face of our Dakota Raptor. These are limited edition models that are sculpted and painted by the original artist. And you can see, again, how incredible it looks with an artist's paint job applied to it. We can see variations of reds, orange, yellow, and even purples all here through the face, giving this a nice little element of flashiness there in the skin textured area of the face, and it looks super, super cool. But here on the inside of the mouth, you can see the tongue is sculpted out, and again, some of the nicest, most realistic paintwork I think I've seen, you can see is present here for the inside of the mouth, and the detailing is insane on the inside of the mouth. You look back there, it actually looks like it has a genuine throat as well. Nice washes and everything have been applied again, just to amp up the realism there on the inside of the mouth, and you can see all of the teeth are all sculpted individually, and they as well look incredible. When you take a look there, you can see some of the teeth kind of hiding there within the mouth, behind the lips and everything. It's just insane. No matter where you're looking at it, no matter what angle you are looking at it, it is absolutely phenomenal. As you start to lead back here into the neck, you see some really nice feathering picking up, and you can see that feathering gets pretty scruffy up here on the top of the head. He's also darkened the top of the head here with what appears to be like a black, and then you can also see variations of like purples here moving along the side, as well as off-whites and grays. Quite a bit of variation of color as you move through the course of the side of the dinosaur, and he's definitely applied a really nice wash to it as well. Honestly, SP Art Projects paintwork might be some of the best that I've ever seen from any paleo artist. And as you move here along the underside, you continue to see again a little bit of finer feathering moving down through the course of the throat into the chest. You can also see kind of like some light variation of color with like some variations of browns. As you continue to move along, you can kind of make out the spinal column, against some little fluffier areas of feathering as you move along the back of the dinosaur, and then you lead down here into the side of the arms, and you can see the arms, both arms are kind of held into the body in a nice natural position. You can see some really nice plumage leading off of the arms. They're bent. You can obviously see them lead back here, bend in the elbow, and then come back down, and there's the wrist, of course, right, would be in this area. And you can see that there's also some really nice variations of, again, blacks but purples that have been applied to the plumage there leading off of the arm. And you can see again how impressive the actual feather detail is. he has sculpted out each and every tiny detail to those feathers that just makes it look incredible. As you lead down, you can also see some scoots down the course of the fingers, and the nails are sculpted and painted very nicely, given a nice black tone of color, and that all looks incredible. You can see what the hands look there from the inside. They also look really nice from that angle as well. As you lead back, you can even see how the elbow's kind of pushing into the stomach right there, sort of like pushing the stomach into the body a little bit there as the elbow kind of presses into it. As we continue to move along, again, you get a nice closer look. You can really appreciate how impressive the sculpt and detail is on this model. And then as you lead down, you can see we've got some really scruffy feathers leading down the course of the leg. We transition to a black for that area, similar to what we saw on the feathering there on the arm. And again, as you lead through, you can just see so much subtle variation of color as we have variations of darker and lighter shades of purples as well as grays and all kinds of color variation. But as you lead down, you again have some nice scoots down the front of the foot. You can see that the toe is extended as far as that sickle claw, and you can see that the other toes are kind of trailing back. So obviously our Dakota Raptor was leading in with the intention to kill while it was getting smacked by that club tail. If you take a look at the inside of the leg for the other side, you can see again the toes are in slightly different positions. You can also see the dew claw kind of up there, almost pushed into the foot because it's kind of pushed up against the body as it's being smacked away. But as you lead out here into the tail, you can again see some nice variation of color here as well as some nice detailing for the underside of the tail. But again, if you get a look from up above, you can see the really nice plumage here as you lead out into the tail. Such a beautiful looking interpretation of a Dakota Raptor. Really nice and naturalistic. You can also see some darker tones of color that lead out around the edge of the tail, as well as like some little light grays that kind of stripe through in certain spots. And again, all kinds of variation of color leading through the center as we have purples, grays, all kinds of actually variations of purples with lighter and darker shades. And I love all the imperfections as you move along the outer edge of the tail. You can see that it's not just a perfectly, beautifully formed tail full of feathers. You can see again that there's all sorts of imperfections in the feathers and stuff, which just adds another element of realism that I love. And then as you lead over here and you take a look at this side, you can see again this leg, how it's up in the air as the dinosaur was obviously running along and probably leaping in to try to take down the Ankylosaurus. You can see the underside of the foot and everything over here looks great. You can also see the area where the tail will attach to the peg on the end of the club tail of the Ankylosaurus. And again, the arm and what it looks like over here on this side. And we can get a good look here at the face of this side as well. Again, sporting that perfect paintwork for the eye, as well as those really nice varying tones of color, like we had seen on the initial side. And one thing that was on the initial side that I actually didn't point out, you can actually see that there's like a scar right here. So obviously this dinosaur has encountered some form of an injury there on the snout at some point, which again is just another element of realism that I love when it comes to not only this set, but just SP art projects in general, and how far they always go to give you one of the most realistic dinosaur models you're going to see anywhere. So the Dakota Raptor is fantastic. And then we've got our Ankylosaurus, and you can see the Ankylosaurus is exactly as you would expect it to be, a very heavily armored dinosaur with some extremely tough looking skin texture, and he sculpted that out, I think, very nicely. You can see the nostrils are again highlighted with a darker tone of color. It's a little hard to get in there because the eyes kind of placed back into the head a little bit. It's a little hard to see it, but the eye paint is really quite nice. And you can again see just in general the paintwork of the face is phenomenal, as we have all kinds of variations of browns and blacks throughout. You can see again what it looks like from up above. Again, the most masterful paintwork I think I've seen on an Ankylosaurus. The mouth is open. We could see the teeth sculpted out in there if my camera would focus on it any way you could. Yeah, you can kind of see, there we go. You can see a nice gloss. Oh, and then we lose focus. You can see a nice gloss coat there on the inside of the mouth as well. Again, all the sculpt and detail you would like to see. The nice tongue sculpted out in there, and again all of the teeth. And the teeth even have variation of color. You can even see like a wash that's been applied to the teeth just to add another element of realism. And if you look right there, you can see the gums and everything there on the inside of the mouth. Insanely impressive sculpt and paintwork. But obviously our Ankylosaurus is in quite a dynamic position as it's defending itself and smacking away a raptor there as it's kind of leaping in. As we move down here, you can see how the leg is picking up off of the ground. You can again see some really nice paintwork, some really nice sculpt work. We've got some like heavily armored scoots here moving along the course of that leg as you move down. Some lighter variation of color as you lead down, but again darkening there in the foot. You can see the toes look really good, as do the nails, sculpted out very, very nicely. As we lead up here and get a look at the upper side, because the dinosaur is curved so sharply, it's a little bit hard to really get a good look over here, especially when it comes to the neck, pretty much impossible. If we actually, if we come over here, there, you can get a pretty good shot of what the face looks like. And it honestly looks like you can see genuine fear in the face of this dinosaur, which is another impressive aspect to this model. But as you move here along the side, you can get a good idea of what the girth of the dinosaur looks like. You can definitely see from up above, definitely well fed, very healthy looking Ankylosaurus. You can see again some more variation of color as we have kind of like some black stripes that lead down, as I smacked the camera by accident. But you can see like some black stripes leading down through the side. Lots and lots and lots of color variation, very subtle differences in color on this that make it look extremely lifelike and realistic. And as you continue to move back, you also see kind of like an armored sort of appearance running down the front of the thigh down into the shin of our Ankylosaurus. And you can see again all kinds of variation of color, even some slight hints of almost greens showing up. Nice muscle definition in the calf. Again, we can see the foot sculpt back here, the very nicely sculpted and painted nails right there. You can see cracks and crevices even within the nails themselves, and even a bit of a gloss coat has been added to the nails again for that extra bit of realism. You can also see the peg right there, and a peg right here, because all three of those legs are supported into the base, so it stands very nicely. And also, again, a peg leading off of the tail there that helps to support the Dakota Raptor. But if we actually take a look at the opposing side here, you can get a way better look here at the neck region of the Ankylosaurus, as it's obviously got its head stretched quite far to the left as it's trying to see what's going on with this dinosaur that's attacking. You can see the throat down here, and also some tensing in the neck as the dinosaur is turning its body quite so sharply. You can also see some muscle definition here leading down the front of the leg, the right leg. Again, the foot sculpt looks really good. All sorts of variation of color yet again. And then as you lead up, you can see how all of the armored areas of the Ankylosaurus look here, moving along the back. Incredibly, incredibly impressive sculpt and paintwork. Again, you could just see tons of color up here. There is just so much variation of color. And honestly, it's pretty much exactly the tones of color I would like to see on an Ankylosaurus. And you can again see some girth here in the stomach. We can definitely get a much better look here on this side at the stomach region compared to the initial side, because the legs are, spread so far apart, and obviously the dinosaur's turned away from us, which really opens quite a bit of possibility to see this stomach region better than the initial side. You can also see this leg here, again, has that kind of armored sort of a look moving down the front of the leg. Lots of dark tones in that area. You again have the really nice foot sculpt and some nice dark tones down here as well. And again, look at how realistically painted the nails are and sculpted. Like, it looks actually like there's like genuine almost chips taken out of the nail, which is something you would really probably see on a living dinosaur. And then as you move here along the tail, you can again see kind of like a striping as you lead out the length of the tail here of our Ankylosaurus as we lead all the way out to that club tail. And you can get a look here at the top, again, what the club tail looks like, as well as, again, how impressively painted that is. That looks as legit as it gets, as realistic as it gets. And the detailing here of the underside also looks phenomenal as you move along. Again, super, super impressive sculpt, super impressive paintwork as we move along here. The underside of our amazing Ankylosaurus. And then we've got our base, and you can see the base is just a nice earthy area here with a little bit of a rock formation off to the right. Kind of looks like the Ankylosaurus was nesting in this area, and maybe the Dakota Raptor had just come running down maybe like a mountain range right here and went in for an attack, or maybe it was actually down here already, because we can see that there are eggs down here, and the eggs are sculpted really nicely. Look at the actual detailing there on the eggs themselves. But on top of how impressive that is, you can see one of the eggs actually is cracked open, and he's painted even the inside of the cracked open egg. You can see again, we almost have like a yolk-like appearance right there with some yellowish tones. I can even see what looks to be maybe some pinkish tones, and there is a gloss coat there, so it would give it that, wet look like you would expect to see on the inside of an egg. and there's also some nice darker tones of color down there in the nest itself. So insanely impressive sculpt and paintwork. We also have some vegetation here as you move up along the rocky formation, and you can see that on top of having vegetation sculpted in, he's actually applied some that's, not sculpted in actual plant life that's been applied by him, and there's actually a little bit more of that going on here. As we move over here, we've got another little rocky area, again with some more vegetation showing up. Again, the amount of work that SP Art Projects puts into their models is unreasonable. Like, there's just so much that goes into them, making them incredibly lifelike, incredibly realistic. As you move along, you again see all the earthy areas have lots of variation of color, lots of really nice texturing. You can see more vegetation, more rocks and stuff. This is absolutely one of the most incredible models that I have in my collection, and I would say my new favorite from SP Art Projects. There's just so much to it, so much realism, so much impressive work that has gone into this, and again, being a limited edition, I really recommend grabbing one right away if you are interested in picking one up. You can see the back of the rock formation and everything over here. And if we take a look here at the underside, you can see Protecting the Nest is the name of the model, and we have an Ankylosaurus versus Dakota Raptor, again by SP Art Projects in 1/20th scale, and this is number 4 of 20. So there's only going to be 20 of these made, which shows you how limited this really is, and again how important it is that if you would like to grab one, that you get one right away. So that is an absolutely epic base to go with one of the coolest dioramas I've ever seen. And again, as we mentioned, there are pegs here on the feet of the Ankylosaurus. There are also peg holes on the base, so you just have to kind of line those up and then slide them in, and then straight away your Ankylosaurus stands very nicely. It's really quite stable, so it's not one of those models where often when I get like resin models and stuff, might have knocked a little something off the bottom, but when I often get models like this, resin models and stuff, I usually would glue them on, but this you don't need to, because the pegs that he has created are extremely efficient in holding everything on. And again, like I said, one of the things that I love the most is the fact that the Dakota Raptor is completely suspended up in the air in this diorama, because you have a hole here on the side, a peg hole, and you just have to line that peg hole up there with the peg on the tail of the Ankylosaurus. Let me see if I've got it on there right. Got to get to that side and take a look. So yep, there we go. Now it's on there completely, and you can see again, we can turn it, we can look at it from all different angles, and it really captures that scene perfectly, like right in mid-defense in probably the most dramatic moment of this scene taking place, with that Ankylosaurus giving that Dakota Raptor one good solid smack in the side and sending it flying away from its nest. Super cool. But as far as a size goes, you did see that it is 1/20th scale. I don't really know exactly how to go about measuring it. If we take a look at the base from one side to the other, you're looking at about just shy of 7.5 inches, or around 19 centimeters for a height. The highest point would be the Dakota Raptor. I'd say about 6.5 inches, or around the 16.5, maybe 17 centimeter mark. With, a model like this, it's pretty hard to get an accurate measurement on either dinosaur, because both dinosaurs are kind of curved in quite sharply. You can see the Ankylosaurus obviously has a pretty good curve to it. The Dakota Raptor certainly does as well. So I don't know that measuring the dinosaurs themselves is really going to be a pretty accurate way to show off the size of the model, but you can definitely see regardless that it is quite large. And if that's not enough, measuring them the way that we just did, then we'll go ahead and give you a size comparison. So there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Ankylosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line here next to our Ankylosaurus and Dakota Raptor SP Art Projects model. And you can see again, it sports a pretty darn impressive size. It's not like absolutely gigantic, but it is quite large. And the fact that both dinosaurs are curved in makes it pretty convenient to display, because it's not something that's going to need a massive amount of room to be displayed while still having both dinosaurs at a very impressive size. Again, at 1/20th scale, they're quite large, but we obviously don't have a massive amount of room taken up because of the positioning of the scene taking place. And I have absolutely no Dakota Raptors in my collection that I can recall, so For a comparison, we'll just do some randoms, I think. I definitely have some more Ankylosaurus, which I'll try to bring one or two in here in a moment. But as far as a comparison goes, with just some randoms, we have the Schleich Diabloceratops, Safari LTDU Tyrannus, and the Collect Day Deluxe Dimetrodon here, standing in to again help give you an idea of the very, very nice size of the model. But for another comparison, there is a Mattel Dilophosaurus and a Mattel Velociraptor here next to the Ankylosaurus and Dakota Raptor, further showing you again the quite impressive size of the model. And even though we've already used quite a bit of Mattel in this video for comparisons, here's another one because we have an Ankylosaurus from Mattel. But what's cool about this is if you look at the Ankylosaurus from Mattel and the Ankylosaurus in the SP Art Projects model, they're fairly similar in size, fairly similar in scale, obviously very different in the pose and everything, and also the thickness of the body is quite different. The Mattel version looks a lot thinner overall, and the SP Art Projects version looks a lot more healthy, but I would say overall they are a fairly similar size range. And then for another size comparison with an Ankylosaurus, which is a very popular Ankylosaurus on the market currently, we have the Nanmu version of the Ankylosaurus, and you can definitely see a pretty drastic difference in size between these two. Obviously, the SP Art Projects version is a good bit larger. So this SP Art Projects Ankylosaurus taking on a Dakota Raptor protecting the nest diorama is phenomenal, and honestly, that's putting it very mildly. It is unquestionably one of the coolest models, maybe the coolest model I have in my collection, because on top of having two super nice looking species, they have two incredibly well done versions of both species. Like, it's definitely one of the best Ankylosaurus that I have in my collection, and easily the best Dakota Raptor because I don't really have any others. But even if I did, I would still say this is the best version of the Dakota Raptor I have in my collection. And sculpt-wise, paint-wise, both are amazing looking. There's just so much variation of color, so much realism sculpted in and painted into both of these models that really brings them to life in the best way possible. Really makes you look at this and feel like there is genuine emotion, like there really is living creatures before you. That's how impressive the sculpt and paint is on these models. But on top of, again, including two super cool species, two exceptionally well done models of both species, you also have a really dynamic scene taking place. As we've already mentioned, we've got ourselves an Ankylosaurus protecting its nest against this huge Dakota Raptor, and the scene is, again, kind of frozen in time at probably the perfect moment. If you could freeze a fight between a Dakota Raptor and an Ankylosaurus at any perfect time, it would be this moment here, where the Ankylosaurus has successfully just smashed that Dakota Raptor with its tail, and obviously is sending it somewhere far away from that nest, because this looks to be a direct hit if you ask me. And you can see again genuine fear in the face of the Ankylosaurus. You can also see that Dakota Raptor is absolutely feeling that impact on its side as it's letting out some sort of a vocalization, or even was just about to come down for what it expected to maybe be a bite that could have led it to victory. But regardless, again, the fact that they've captured this so nicely in the model, and also allowing that Dakota Raptor to be up off of the ground entirely, no matter where you look at it, it's completely elevated up off of the ground because of the way it's attached to the tail, is absolute brilliance on the part of SP Art Projects. And it's just perfectly created where it just looks so good. You don't see the peg on the tail or anything, like it's just perfectly applied. And on top of that, you have a really, really nice base with all sorts of elements of realism with vegetation and rocks, and, you know, a nice little rocky formation, and you have different variations of vegetation. Like, there's no laziness at all when it comes to this model. On top of that, the paintwork is phenomenal. The sculpt work is phenomenal. That just the nest alone is so impressive to look at. The sculpting of the eggs and the texturing to the eggs is incredible. And the fact that we have one egg that's kind of broken open, and he's gone ahead and painted the inside and given it that kind of glossy look to again add even more realism to this set is just amazing. I honestly could probably talk about this set for days, and it really wouldn't do it justice. So if you are interested in grabbing one of these for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can contact SP Art Projects right now on their social media account on Instagram. Or, of course, if you would like to get a hold of one and you do not have social media, I can of course help you out. So I will include my email address down in the description as well. So if you are interested in grabbing one of these, you don't have Instagram, just send me an email, and of course I'll help you place an order with SP Art Projects to get one of these amazing limited edition statues to enter into your collection. So one way or another, this is a gigantic recommendation from me. Make sure you pick this model up if you are interested, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.